Thank you for staying with us. In 1948, the United Nations General Assembly adopted the 10th day of December. Well, today is the 12th, so that's 2 days ago it was celebrated, as Human Rights Day. This day is observed annually to reaffirm the importance of human rights in building the world that we want, the need for global solidarity as well as interconnectedness and shared humanity. And the special theme for this year is Recover Better. Stand up for human rights. Well, to look at human rights situation in Nigeria with us this morning, it's my pleasure to welcome our old friend Malachi Ugumadu, immediate past president of the Committee for the Defense of Human Rights.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Good to see you again.
Good morning, viewers.
The last time you joined us virtually.
Yes,
so we're glad that you were able to come physically today.
Now. Were you quarantined at the time?
Oh, well, every Nigerian is quarantined.
We also have a human rights activist, Mr. Declan Ihekaire. Good morning.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Since the EndSARS thing happened, Malachi, the issue of human rights in Nigeria has been thrown to the fore yet again. How do you think we're behaving? How do you think we're doing in that area compared to other countries? Any improvement?
Well, there's a sense of worry, particularly for those of us who are monitoring concrete cases of human rights situation in the country. I also imagine that that is because we're expected to be improving. And the analysis...
Is that saying that we are not improving?
Yes, that is implying that we're not improving. Well, we're dealing with human rights now, and those rights are known. Those rights also establish the thresholds of democracy, the rights to life, dignity of human person, liberty, religion, movement, even your right not to be discriminated against, Section 42, and so on and so forth. And so it was gratifying that the United Nations had this very important theme to deal with this time around, considering what the global pandemic had caused. I'm talking about the COVID-19 pandemic. Recover quickly and then stand up for your rights. For me, it presupposes the inalienability of those rights, even in the face of the global crisis that we had. In other words, to what extent can you take away those rights? Even if you had such exigencies like the COVID-19 global pandemic. There are very many reasons why these rights are very important. These rights have also graduated from being human rights to fundamental rights. And there's a technical difference there. They are human rights because they inure to us by reason of our humanity. And what do I mean? I have a right to move because I have legs. I have a right to speak because I have mouth. I have a right to freely think and hold views because I have a mind and a brain.
Or because you have those inherent and they also have functions.
And they are human.
Okay.
But they have become fundamental because they are now codified as thresholds of every existing civil society.
Okay. Well, Mr. Ihekaire, over the years, this has been on for long enough. And you heard Mr. Ugumadu say that we haven't moved as significantly in terms of human rights as we ought to have. What have we been leaving out of the Congo?
Yeah, I think this is a moment of truth, and we must say it the way it is. Firstly, it's there in our constitution that the fundamental function of any government is to safeguard life and property. And we're in a country where life does not really matter, where people are being killed, where even the government does not even know the number of its citizenry. We're in a country where things could just happen and nobody feels the pain. Nobody feels anything about it. And it begins to surprise people like us that what the government should protect is not being protected. Where the situation where what belongs to you and I is being taken away by a few is a fundamental dishonest to the right of the citizenry. We're in a country where people are looting the treasury, whereby making right to medical care difficult. We're in a country where people are looting money meant for construction of roads, meaning our freedom to movement is also being restricted. So we're in a country where Nigerians are being kept in IDP camps as if they are refugees in their own country, and nobody cares about that. It's an infringement on those rights. So I want to agree with my brother here that we're not improving from we that are on the field of monitoring the rights of the citizens. Things are just not getting better. We're just going round. This morning I was worried when I was listening to the newspaper analysis where I heard that about 14 million naira was used in purchasing biro. And I was like, that money is enough to touch the life of the downtrodden Nigerians whose right has been taken away by just mere purchase of biro. So we need to really get things right in this country, or else every 10th of December we'll just say we're celebrating the Human Rights Day and it's not really impacting on the people.
And there's nothing to celebrate.
Yes.
Yeah, Malachi. Some people would be want to say that human rights in Nigeria are not really important for the reason that a lot of Nigeria's citizens do not even know their rights. So even if their rights are being taken away for them, they wouldn't be any wiser. They couldn't complain because they don't even know what their right is.
Chief Daniel Fawemi of blessed memory, in the heat of our struggle against the military in this country, told me, and I don't forget it, he says the strength of whoever oppresses you lies in your own weakness. That weakness can consist in the volume of information and knowledge that you have. So you couldn't have put it better. That level of ignorance combined with poverty, that is want, desire, I mean, so weak, and I'm coming to that in a moment with a practical case we have just won. When you combine it with the exigencies of survival in a nation like ours, people may know, but they are so weak to even believe that they do indeed have those rights. And I'll give you an example. We have just won, in the last 1 month, we have just won about 3 cases across the country, just the ones I felt should be quite instructive for this program. The last of which was on the Human Rights Day. In short, the boy came out after 7 years in prison. He came out straight to the Right House, Committee for Defense of Human Rights, to thank the organization for assisting him. His name is Uchenna Amakude. Amakude was about 15, writing his SSCE exam, and suddenly he was handed up by the same sergeant. Oh, yes, you were putting on a shirt that looked like the one worn by the armed robber we were looking for. And that was how his journey of 7.5 years, a shirt. I mean, I'm talking of what was tendered in court, statements made. And I need to be very brief about it because there are others. He wrote economics on that particular day and went to his father's shop and was taken from there. That was how he started a journey of 7.5 years until 2 days ago. Now, if you put 7 years in addition to what he was then, he could have concluded a study in medicine, in law, and become a lawyer. Well, I need to just leave that. On the 19th, it was a Wednesday, 19th of November, I personally secured a judgment. This is the CTC of the judgment on behalf of one Ambrose Obafe, who was going to the farm at Ebede. Ebede is a small village in Delta State, with his aged mother, farm implements on their head in a basket and all that. And suddenly, the almighty police came again. Yes, you move in. We learned there was armed robbery 5 months ago. And we were told that you knew what happened. He said armed robbery. We were going to the farm. This was how Obafe started a journey of 3 good years in prison. So I had to, but I think in fairness to the judiciary, this is the fastest human rights application I have filed in court that lasted for just 3 months, between August and November. And when we found the emptiness of the allegation against this, in short, he wasn't even arraigned, because arraignment in law will mean that the charges are read to you and you plead to those charges. Because he knew nothing about court, about what, they brought him to the court, read charges against him. He didn't know what to say. So technically there was no arraignment, yet he was remanded. We had to. I personally went to Owoyibo, Agbo in Delta State, and filed this case, urging that he should be released from detention and then seeking compensation. In November here, he was granted. There are so many across the country, and when we say that we are not impressed with what is happening, it is that on daily basis, I'm not talking about the 43 or 60, whatever that were killed in Borno now. I mean, we have become numbs to numbers. It's no use mentioning. It is simply because no person want to... these are the ones that were fortunate to have contacts to say, I was called by a comrade of ours who was in New York, but because he's from that community, one Luka Hanenu, and say, please, I can't come. I'm also indisposed health-wise. What can we do? There are 1,001 of them scattered everywhere. So life has really become very cheap. Nasty.
There are many issues
and
that
brutish.
you have raised here, Mr. Ogumadu, and I know that we have to go to a break now.
We will come back to those issues.
Yeah, because okay, all right, maybe all right. Well, still back to these conversations about human rights. Well, Mr. Ihekaire, while Mr. Ogumadu was talking, a good number of issues came to my mind, but one of them is the judiciary, the role or the impact or the influence, whichever of the words qualify to what you think this might be about, the role that the judiciary has to play in ensuring that human rights are as fundamental as the Constitution calls them within regulated time. Because 7 years for just wearing the wrong shirt on the wrong day, and 3.5 years for carrying farm implements on your head with your grandmom in a village. I don't know how that can even be interpreted.
Yeah, I've always said it with that number that there's an unholy synergy between the police and the judiciary. And that has really caused a lot of damage.
Are you saying the judiciary is culpable in this?
Very, very culpable. I'm coming to that. And that has caused a lot of damage to the Nigerian citizens. You know, you find a situation where you go to a police station, it's boldly written there, your bail is free. And you wonder why people still pay money to get out of police station whenever they are arrested or whenever there's a case there. You now find out that the sure way or the sure explanation is that it's cheaper for you to pay money to the police than to get yourself out of court. And that is because of the rot in the judiciary. What do I mean by the rot? The police can hurriedly take you to court when you're unable to pay your bail money. And once you get there, the magistrate is not a magician. He or she bases the arraignment on what is presented by the police. And the next thing you hear is that you've been charged for so. You plead not guilty. The magistrate will not tell you to go home. They will grant you bail. You'll be asked to pay tax, 3 years, 2 shorty, And by virtue of the situation in the country, hardly will you have a shorty in your pocket. You start scouting for it. Before you know it, the magistrate is gone. Before you know it, you find yourself in a Black Maria. Before you know it, you're in prison. Before you know it, you start getting a lawyer. You spend a week, 2 weeks. God forbid, court goes on break. You are there until court comes back. So you find out that that has really energized the police in extorting Nigerians on that aspect of bail.
As a rights activist, isn't there an office in the police station, in any police station, that seeks to protect human rights? Yeah,
there is, but it's been abused. Some time ago, a commissioner of police in Lagos State created human rights offices in all police stations in Lagos for mission. But you find out that the officers there are not angels. They are the same police officers. You go there, you pay money to register a case. You go there, they follow you, they arrest somebody before you, they are charging the person money for bail in your presence. So it's still same.
With that same sign in front there, bail.
Very well. It's still same.
Okay.
That is why I was marveling when they said SARS is ended, they are bringing SWAT. And I asked myself, are they coming from the blues? Are they not the same Nigerian police? So this is it's about the systemic, failure. It's about the systemic failure.
Yes.
Well, Comrade, thanks for those interventions. But we need to enter some caveats because the public needs to be enlightened through this program. Much as you hold those views and concerns about the judiciary, there's still a lot coming out from the judiciary in terms of the respect of the rights of human rights. Many of these cases we have won on records are cases that we doggedly fought through the judiciary, not the abusing police officers. And I've given you 3 this morning. The third one is one in Ihekaire Sunday, who had just gone to the village. We were trying to contact them on phone so that they could be part of this. What is the point? It goes back to what you asked about how much of this right do they know. You see, the strength of your oppressor lies in your weakness. They know, 1, you don't know. 2, you don't believe you are entitled to those rights. Thirdly, you don't have the capacity. That capacity is where I go start, which is usually what rushes into your head once you confront them. Who will I run to? But we've been in this business of inviting, so there are many cases we have jumped into, some of them burning our fingers. But the point is, Nigerians should know where to run to. I mean, in the country today, there are multiple human rights organizations. I proudly say that CDHR, apart from CLO, is the second civil society human rights organization in this country after CLO. That was formed in 1987, CDHR 1989, over 30 years ago. Over time, there have been duplications of these organizations, and you can quietly go to any of these. There is the National Human Rights Commission. Yes, I hear that it is, I know it is a government institution, and then you may have limitations. What is the point I'm making? It is that the courts will not just act, and the court in acting must act judicially and judiciously. What does that mean? It will mean that even if you rush to them with your own case, they are consistently and perpetually glued to that principle of justice that says that you must hear the other side, so that you don't just run with one side story and come to a perverse judgment. In that case, you are also bound to listen to what the police is saying, assuming without considering that they have a case, because the society must be rid of crimes. But what we have seen over time is the perennial abuse of the rights of Nigerians because, 1, they are weak in the sense that they don't know how to pursue those rights. Secondly, they may be ignorant. Many don't know that they have a right under the Constitution, right to liberty, meaning that you cannot just be arbitrarily arrested and detained without orders of court. But most importantly, they don't even believe.
Well, Emmanuel Ayewa agrees with you and says that there is some ignorance, but most people know their right, their human rights. They're just too encumbered to fight for them. A lot are ready to forgo their human rights to attend to their need for survival. That is hunger, security, and so on.
Which also lends credence, of course, to what you said the other time. But there is something Mr. Ihekaire said, and I'd like you to respond to it. And that is the systemic inadequacies that the systems that should protect or insulate a citizen from abuse, that are too weak to even stand on their own, to defend or even forestall any situation of human rights abuse in the first place. He talked about the human rights offices in the police stations, which essentially should be like, this is a police is your friend department.
The gatekeeper.
This is a police is your friend department. When a police officer arrests you, the interrogation of...
Let me give you a background to that. That's actually the initiative of Committee for Defense of Human Rights, Lagos State. Emmanuel Adebayo, who is now a royal highness, somewhere in Ondo or Ekiti, as I understand it, was the commissioner of police. I was the general secretary of Committee for Defense of Human Rights. And we said there's a need to take the battle to them. And then prioritize them in a way that they see this as part of their responsibility, because it also reduces their burden if they have a way of checking rights abuses. So we collaborated. We didn't just, it wasn't just created. It was that we gave almost a year lectures, training with Lagos State Command. So that idea that became a national idea started in Lagos State under the leadership of Emmanuel Adebayo as an idea that CDHR propagated. What was it supposed to do? It was supposed to continually engage the police officers on issues of human rights, understanding that people are entitled as of right. And I said fundamental rights because it has graduated from human to fundamental because they are codified, entrenched, and become inalienable. Inalienable in the sense that you can't just take it away. So the fact that there was COVID pandemic and that you have your regulation does not entitle you to shoot any person. The fact that we need to observe this or observe that does not mean you will derogate from those rights. So that was how that came about. But what we have seen over time is not just the overzealous. It seems to be part of the scorecard mechanism of even the police, particularly with SARS, that you must engage in brutality. How did the system respond to that? And that's talking about systemic whatever. It is that laws were now reformed. Before you had the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, which came into effect on the 13th of May, 2015, just at the verge of Jonathan's departure, you already have in Lagos State the Administration of Criminal Justice Law, 2011. What they did was just merely copy it and adopt it as the act of the National Assembly. As I speak, that of 2015 had also been reviewed in 2015. This act, both in the Lagos State law and at the national level, requires periodic visitation
Police stations.
of police, in short, detention facilities.
Yes.
It could be police station, it could be custom, it could be NDLEA, it could be EFCC. By who? By magistrates who are designated by the chief judge to embark on those periodic visitations. What did we do? When I was the national president of CDHR, we activated every branch to write to the chief judge of each state, including those states where there are no Administration of Criminal Justice law, to say, this is what Section 34 of the Act says. You need to designate magistrates who would, on monthly basis, what do they do there? They come there, look at the file of persons who are in detention. Many of them don't even have file, for your information. So that qualifies them for automatic release. Some are charged with offenses that attract punishment of lesser period than the time they have already spent there. That automatically entitles that person to freedom. Some, there are no proof of evidence of any sort. So when you make this visit, you are able to sieve out persons who are otherwise not supposed to be there, as against those that have case and have legitimate evidence against them.
And how
So
well has that worked?
if you combine what is supposed to be happening with the human rights decks all over, by the way, apart from the National Human Rights Commission, you have the Council of Legal Aid. The Council of Legal Aid is older than the National Human Rights Commission. So if you're able to energize and activate all of these organs of state, in addition to the very robust work that the human rights community is doing in Nigeria, we ought to be recording a reduction in the right abuses in this country.
So what has forestalled
What has happened is that over time, and that is precisely the poverty of the situation, those who are the victims of these abuses, one, don't believe, and you won't blame them, because these are people who are unable to even eat and fend for them. You can't arrest me and keep me for 1 week in detention for nothing. The world will hear about it. But when you pick these ones I described in the villages, hardly would you, all they are battling with is how do they raise the 250. If I open and read precisely, you will hear it is go and bring 250,000 naira that kept this boy in detention. They were only able to offer 30,000. What did they do? They arraigned them. When you arraign and the magistrate is aware that he has no right, no power, no jurisdiction to deal or dabble into armed robbery cases, he says you, he remands you.
So, Declan, the NSAS thing has resurrected this whole human rights issue. And every night, almost, we listen to the tribunals and we hear some mind-boggling things. In your experience, is this going to help our understanding of human rights more? Are the citizens going to be made more aware such that they begin to know and believe that they actually have rights and they can go ahead and fight for these rights?
Yeah, thank you. I'm happy for this question because right from the commencement of the panel of inquiry set up by Lagos State government here in Lagos.
And other states.
Yeah, and other states, especially Lagos states, have been attending. Even right now, I'm going there. And it baffles one like me that the position of the police has been anti-people. The panel was actually set up to hear the pains that led to the anger of Nigerians, you know, that warranted them to say end SARS, end police brutality. But what you find there is that you find police representatives coming to embolden the police system, justifying the police system. Since the event in Lagos panel commenced, I have not seen a policeman who has been mentioned as maybe a shooter or an abuser of one's right to have been brought to the panel, even when summoned.
They say they can't find them.
That is one reason. Then two, you hear them tell you, sorry, we're still looking for them, sorry, we need to do this, we need to do that. And the impression we are getting at the panel is that there's tension in the land. Most people that comes there as observers are worried at the response of the police representatives at that panel. Sometimes it takes the wisdom of the justice or the judge or the panelist to calm down the situation. You find a situation where a police lawyer will be asking somebody whose brother has been killed a question like, okay, you said he was shot, he was macheted. How many times was he macheted? How many beef was taken from the body? Such thing causes anger. So we have not learned anything. Coupled with the fact that the IG, the Inspector General of Police too, have not helped the situation now. He made some statement of recent, and I'm sure that statement has been misinterpreted, misinterpreted by his boys when he said, when you are attacked, you should do what? You should like retaliate. You shouldn't fold your...
When you are attacked, when you see that your life is in jeopardy,
yes,
defend yourself.
Defend yourself. When he said defend yourself, and he was in Anambra a few days ago, he said with maximum that the police is ready to stop any protest with maximum force. Such languages shouldn't have come at this point in time. We're trying to calm nerves, but what you see is that people are making statements. Don't forget, a few days ago, a Kekemawa man, a tricycle guy, was killed in the River State just for 100 naira. Have the police officers or men learnt any lesson from the NSAS thing? The answer is no. Bail are still being collected at the police station. Nigerians are still paying to report a case at the police station. It's happening every day.
No, gentlemen, I know we're due to end this conversation in a few minutes, but I need us to talk about this. Because this is not the first time we are having a panel of inquiries such as the one that's been replicated in all states. Of course, we all remember the Human Rights Violation Investigation Commission, the Oputa panel of 1999. Clearly, many would say, what exactly did that achieve? Perhaps not much, because there were litigations again that said, look, the Human Rights panel, Human Rights Violation panel set up by the federal government was out of order, was supposed to be done by the states. Now we have this one at the states level. That of 1999 didn't quite achieve much other than to raise issues, some of which we are still discussing till today. Now, these judicial panels of inquiry were supposed to investigate cases of human rights abuses. Do you see any hope?
Well, to the extent that it's an intermediary effort to intermediate between the protests and what was to follow the protests, you could see that there's focus there. I personally have forwarded about 4. Because even while some were still pending in the different magistrate courts, one of which had just been struck at about 2 days ago, I didn't even remember to mention that, Mrs. Adioti. So to that extent, you could say, well, it has helped to arrest the situation. Attention is now focused on there. But clearly there are legal issues, like you are mentioning.
Okay.
The most of which is, what is the propriety of having state governments intervening on federal agencies like organizations like the Nigerian Police Force. But I do think that there are hopes.
I'm sorry, we have to just leave it there today. There's never enough time when you're on live television, but that is the nature of what we do. This conversation has only just started because I think we have raised awareness today on this program that your human rights are something, or some things that you need to pursue because they are your right. And he has said they are no longer human rights, they are now fundamental rights. So please, if anything should happen to you, make sure that you know your rights and you pursue your rights to the logical conclusion. Thank you very much, Malachi Ogumadu, immediate past president of the CDHR, as well as Mr. Declan Ihekaire, a rights activist.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Sunrise will return with another conversation in just a moment. Stay with us.